Hi. Our first task was to generate normals for the pre-made models that we had used earlier, which is the unit box and unit box repeat texture and with the pyramid. So for that, I have created generated new setups for each of these, and as you can see over here, so the last three parameters are these x, y, and z values are the normals for each of these. So for the pyramid repeat texture, I have set up a loop, and according to my calculations, I set up the normals. So when we run this program, this is the rendered output. As you can see, I have a cube on the screen, and a pyramid is going up and down on which point light is falling, and spotlight is rotating around the screen. So we can see it brightens the pyramid over here, it brightens the cube and the pyramid over here. And this is under a skybox which is green and the yellow plane. So this is the first task. For this I'm using the shader color light and color light HLSL files, which calculates all the colors and displays it on the screen. So for the second task, I had to use texture and lighting in the same file. So for this I have created a texture light HLSL and a shader texture light class file, which uses the texture light, and the texture light calculates all the colors. And when we render this program on the screen, so we can see over here there's a spotlight rotating on the screen, as we can see, and I have two pyramids on my screen. Yeah, this is it. This is one pyramid and this is another pyramid. This pyramid does not have any light associated with it, no point light is going through it, but as we can see on this pyramid there is a point light at this location and a spotlight along with my terrain, as we can see, and the skybox. So to illuminate the terrain also, I have done the changes in the model. So for the terrain model, now nothing is hard coded, it runs dynamically, and I calculate. I'm pretty much using the same technique. I'm calculating the height maps and pixel values, and mapping the texture onto the pixels, and from my this loop I am calculating the normals and attaching it to all the pixels and setting up the binding, and in the end I set up the model terrain and the word matrix. Everything is dynamic, as we can see over here. It uses all the initial values, the y translation and maximum height, and that was the output that we saw on the screen. Also we can notice in this, so if we see dx app, so in this I create all the texture and the models that I want to render. I create the word matrix for each of these, and I update these in the draw scene, so it renders everything onto the screen. So it's a mixture of lighting as well as texture, and also everything was done under the in the skybox, as we saw there. I'll run the program again. There was a desert skybox on my screen. This is it. This one, as we can see in the back, there's a skybox. Now the third task was to create multiple lighting on the screen. So for this I have right now I have done only 2 point lights on my screen, 2 point lights. This can be changed, this can be updated, and the program will work properly. And to completely correctly compute this in the vertex shader output, so when we calculate the direction light and point light, I am calculating it 2 times, because I am using 2 point lights on my screen, and then in the end everything gets added in the light current that is returned, and that is the this is the output that we get on the screen. So if we see over here, there is a direction light, and also there is an sorry, this is the spotlight, this one, and there is a direction light which is illuminating the scene just a bit, and over here I have 2 point lights on the edges of the terrain. I've also set the pyramids from my previous example over here. They're using mountain texture where the light is falling, as we can see over here. See, it gets illuminated when the spotlight goes through it. And to achieve this, when I set the point light, I use the loop for 2 times, and in the DX app I pass on the position, set up the skybox and terrain, and in draw scene I pass these values twice for my two models, two pyramids that we saw, and accordingly, and from the word material and position, everything gets calculated, and that was the output that I get on the screen. And in the further task, we were asked what if we want to have two texture added on the same scene. So I think it can be achieved through, let me see, was multi shader. Yes. So over here we take the texture sample and multiply it to the light that is falling on the screen. So this can be done twice maybe, and that's how. So in the first phase, first texture will get calculated according to the light, and in the second phase the second texture will be multiplied onto the output of this one, and through that we can have multiple texture on that same scene in with the multiple lights or single light according to our requirement. Over here I have done multiple lights. So that's it for this week. Thanks.